Hello, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. I hope everybody is doing well. So, greetings from Mexico, and this is your astrological forecast for next week. I decided not to include the new moon in Scorpio because that one is coming up on Monday, the 13th of November, and this week is already packed with a lot of things. So, I decided to make another video about that one. Otherwise, this video will be just too long. So, my astrological forecast for the later week, which will include the new moon in Scorpio, will be coming up earlier, probably on Friday, so stay tuned for that one. But just to mention, we are closing this week with of course Sun Jupiter opposition and Venus Neptune opposition that took place on Friday, and then yesterday we had the Mercury Uranus opposition and also Saturn station in direct. So as of now, Saturn is direct and going for the third time over the same territory. It already went through twice. However, now it's with this new insight that it gathered during its retrograde phase. During the 5 months it was retrograde. So we are actually ending this week and starting a new one with Moon in the sign of Leo, which is all about creative self-actualization. And here I am, this is me. And also tomorrow we are going to have Venus making a trine to Pluto from Virgo. And Pluto, of course, is in Capricorn, now direct, and later on tomorrow, Moon will move into the sign of Virgo. Then, depending where you are in the world, for me here in Mexico now, it's going to be taking place on Monday night. For you guys over there in Europe and further, it's going to be on Tuesday. Mercury will make a trine to Neptune. That's Mercury in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces. Neptune is still retrograde. And on the same day, Pallas will oppose North Node and conjunct the South Node. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have planetary change of sign, and this time it's Venus. So Venus will be moving on the 8th of November into her sign of her other rulership, into Libra. So Venus in Libra, it's all about relationships, of course, and we just had a Libra season, so this time is going to be about relationship from the point of Scorpio. Because we are in Scorpio season and everything is very deep and intense at the moment. So we carry on Thursday. We're going to, and again, this follows us actually here across the Atlantic, is going to be still happening on Wednesday night. Mercury will be making a sextile to Pluto, and this is of course the closing sextile, the what we would say waning sextile, preparing for the Mercury to close the cycle between itself and Pluto. And that will take place, of course, during their conjunction next year. And on the same day, well, actually on Thursday the 9th, Moon will move into the sign of Libra and conjunct Venus on the same day. And then on Friday the 10th, we have a second planetary change of sign, and this one is Mercury. So Mercury will be moving into Sagittarius, where it will remain only for 3 weeks, because then on the 1st of December, Mercury will move into the sign of Capricorn. And as soon as Mercury moves into the sign of Sagittarius, it will make square to Saturn on 0 degrees 33 minutes of Pisces. That's when Saturn is, but this is the degree where the square will take place. And then on Saturday we have Moon moving into the sign of Scorpio, and on the same day actually we have Mars making an opposition to Uranus, and Uranus is still retrograde in Taurus. As I keep saying, Uranus will be the last planet that will station direct at the end of January 2024. By that point, Pluto will already be in a sign of Aquarius, and Uranus will be the ruler of Pluto, of course. And actually, Uranus will be opposing the upcoming new moon in Scorpio as well, because, well, and the Mars obviously being the ruler, the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So this is probably the biggest aspect that will be taking place during the new moon in Scorpio. It will be opposed by Uranus. So expect unexpected, because Uranus in Taurus, anything can take place. And then on Sunday, the only thing that's going to be really taking place is Moon in opposition to Jupiter. Moon in a sign of Scorpio, opposition to Jupiter, retrograde in Taurus. This is something that takes place every month, because as we know, Moon goes around the entire zodiac, touches everything in your chart, and makes aspect to everything in your chart every single month over the 28 and a half days that Moon has this cycle. And then on Monday the 13th of November, as I mentioned, is the day when we'll have the next lunation, which is the new new moon in Scorpio that will be happening in opposition to Uranus. But I will, as I said at the beginning, make a separate video about this, otherwise it would make this video too long. And also, as usual, you can expect my collaborations. Probably some of them will be released before even my next astrological forecast, so stay tuned. So, okay, there are a few things that I would like to say about the aspects that are taking place in the sky right now, even though we're moving away from that. So we had this Venus in opposition with Neptune, and as we know, every time we have an opposition is the point of illumination and integration, because opposition is like the full moon. So actually the conjunction between Venus and Neptune took place on 15th of February 2023. So now Venus being the sign of Virgo, and is opposing, that just opposed Neptune on Friday night, Saturday morning, depending where you are in the world. Something is becoming illuminated to you, with regards to you, to everyone, with regards to what adjustments are we making when it comes to things, themes, people that no longer resonate with us. Because of course Neptune in the sign of Pisces, and now currently still being retrograde, is making us deeply reevaluate, like, how is this supporting us on our spiritual path and on our evolutionary path as well, like going forward, because, you know, at the moment we actually have the nice roof, the sextiles between Neptune and Uranus, and Neptune and Pluto from the other side. They all like making a positive aspect to each other. So yeah, so this cycle between Venus and Neptune that now is becoming illuminating has started in February this year, right after Valentine's Day, and it will end in April. Venus will conjunct Neptune next time in April the 3rd, 2024. So this is when the cycle will finish. And by then we will have the totality of understanding what this cycle was about. And because Neptune is in the sign of Pisces, there is a lot of healing taking place at the moment. There is a lot of letting go of things that no longer resonate and serve us because they are things of the past. We have the totality of understanding and a totality of that experience, and is no longer going to support us going forward, because as we know, Saturn as the structure of our realities in Pisces also, and as of yesterday, Saturn is direct. So Saturn is now helping us to, in a sense, dissolve these aspects of our reality that are no longer creating the structure and definition that is desirable for us going forward. Because of course Saturn still currently is the ruler of Pluto in Capricorn, having its 15-year transit in Capricorn since 2008, and will have one more retrograde into Capricorn next year. So all these things, everything is culminating. So all these oppositions that are taking place, and then of course we had the Mercury in opposition with Uranus yesterday, and it's the same story. So again, opposition. So what happened during the time of conjunction? And actually Mercury made a conjunction to Uranus in Taurus on June 4th, because we might remember that Mercury had its nice long retrograde in Taurus in the springtime, helping us to reconnect with ourselves during the eclipses. And Mercury made a conjunction to Uranus on the 4th of June 2023, and it was right after the full moon in Sagittarius. It's interesting because of course we're going to have the next lunation after the next full moon, a new moon. After the new moon in Scorpio will be the one in Sagittarius. So it's interesting that this conjunction between Mercury and Uranus happened right after Sagittarius full moon, which of course gave us a full, again, a clarity or understanding of a story, like what is the story. And of course by this point in June, Jupiter would have already been in a sign of Taurus. So we are learning again the story regarding our needs, values, and what really matters to us, and who you are, and what do you want to experience in this reality. Because at the end of the day, Taurus is all about preservation, and about, well, core level of Taurus is of course survival, but we didn't come here just to survive. We came here to thrive and to actually have abundance of experiences, right? So with this Mercury-Uranus opposition that is just taking place from the sign of Scorpio, this is really deep introspection with regards to what is that theme, what is that story, what is this thing that just became outdated now with regards to Taurus theme that is being illuminated. There is a light shine onto it because it's like a full moon. And then we'll have the next Mercury and Uranus conjunction in April on the 30th of May 2024. So again, we have 5 months, over 6 months, over 6 months to integrate that process, because then of course the closer Mercury will get to Uranus, it will be closing time. It will be closing time of that cycle. So again, with conjunction, there is an ending and a new beginning. With opposition, there is or illumination of that process is the midpoint where we have the opportunity to sow the rewards of that process, because we have a deeper understanding of what that process is about. And then when there is the last square, we get to the point where we'll have to let go of something, and then the cycle will be ending. So we can see how many things will be culminating in a springtime for us. So now we are in a midpoint, and it's interesting that we are in a midpoint during the Scorpio season, which is a very deep introspection, a deep investigation to the core level of what really makes you you, because Scorpio, of course, is about Pluto. It's about evolution. It's about sense of self-empowerment or not, or sense of fear, right? So all these things are being brought to the surface at the moment, and especially when there is a Uranus involved, and like I said, expect unexpected. It could be anything. It could be sudden realization, sudden downloads that suddenly gives us this clarity and understanding of things that we couldn't see before, that we didn't understand before. So that's why there is so much intensity going on in the sky at the moment, obviously still as an after effects of the eclipses, because eclipses are the unveiling and unrevealing over like 6 months period. And of course the totality of the eclipses is understood after the eclipse cycle has ended, in which case now we just had the end of the cycle between Taurus, the eclipses between Taurus and Scorpio. But still these after effects will reach all the way until next spring, because the six months period, always between new moon, full moon, we have usually the 6 months period. So that's why right now we're going through all these experiences, these intense experiences where a lot of things are resurfacing from our subconscious, because they want to be integrated and eventually either illuminated and let go of, or we take whatever we learned from it, but we'll have to decide what it is that we taking with us to the next cycle and what we not. So anyway, so this was obviously the ending of this week, but I thought that it was important to mention these cycles, which are now midpoint, halfway through, and they come into the end in a springtime. So this is the period of time we're playing with regards to, what are we letting go of? What are we breaking free out of? What are the patterns that we are now becoming more aware of? And also, what is this? Yeah, I forgot to mention that the first conjunction between Mercury and Uranus, the one we just having the opposition of, actually happened right after Mercury made a square to the nodes. Mercury was in the sign of Aquarius at the time, and it made a square to the nodes. So it was pointing obviously to the south node in Scorpio. And isn't that interesting that now Mercury is in a sign of Scorpio when it's having this opposition with Uranus? So that's what I mean. It's again pointing towards what is this thing that is hiding in our subconscious that perhaps we were too afraid to look at for all these times. It could be even previous lifetimes, previous incarnations, that now we have no choice anymore. We have to look at them because of all these Pluto aspects that are taking place in the sky. So anyway, I'll come back to it because I know we have the Mercury sextile to Pluto, but let's just keep on. So as I mentioned, we are starting the week with Moon in the sign of Leo, even though Moon will move into the sign of Virgo later on tomorrow, on Monday. And also tomorrow we have the Venus trine to Pluto. And this is again the harvest time. This is the last trine, the waning trine, right? The waning gibbous, right? Because Venus will have the conjunction with Pluto The next one will take place on the 22nd of February 2024, which again is just before the full moon in Virgo. So we can see all these themes, how they literally on the top of each other, because Venus trining Pluto on Monday is in the sign of Virgo, and we'll have a Venus conjunction to Pluto, the next one, on 22nd of February 2024, and that will be literally 2 days before the full moon in Virgo. So again, Venus trining Pluto from the sign of Virgo, it is helping us to understand, because Virgo is very practical sign. It's very grounded sign. It gathers information in order to discern, to organize things, to become efficient. So this Venus going through the sign of Virgo, and again she's touching everything that already got activated by Mars, illuminated by Sun, and in many cases touched twice by Mercury, because Mercury had its last retrograde in Virgo in the sign of its exaltation and rulership by the traditional astrology point of view. So Venus now going through the same territory, and all of these planets already made a trine to Pluto, and Venus is the last one. She's the one closing the aisle, closing the queue. And Venus is now trining Pluto on Monday, literally a week before we have this new moon in Scorpio, and ruled by Pluto, modern astrology. And Venus is saying that, okay, now we understand, because Venus on 28 degrees, now we understand what is it perhaps that we need to, we need to let go of, that we need to change, that we need to shift, that is no longer supporting us, right? Because of this understanding that we had the opportunity to accumulate over the 15 years of Pluto in Capricorn transit, and now Saturn as the ruler being in Pisces, and now Saturn being direct. And Pisces is all about the end. It's about closing the cycles. It's about the totality of understanding of everything that came before. So this Venus making a trine to Pluto is supporting that whole process. She's supporting that whole process of learning, adjusting, discerning, and actually just accepting that this is what makes us human, that even though we might make mistakes and not always what we might consider as the right choice, but there is no mistake, there are no coincidences, there are no random choices in the universe, because everything supports us on our hero's journey and teaches us exactly what we need to know. Through this process, we gather tools that will be helpful to us or someone else on our path, because you never know where you're gonna use what you learned, right? And who you're gonna help with that. So everything's got a purpose. There is a reason for everything, and there is nothing ever wasted in the universe. And this is what Venus in the sign of Virgo, practical Venus that had to get down to work, this is what we had the opportunity to learn throughout this transit. And then on the same day, Moon is moving into the sign of Virgo. I mean, seriously. So then Monday night, as I mentioned, for people across the Atlantic, it will be on Tuesday early morning. Mercury will make a trine to Neptune. So this is again the closing trine, the waning gibbous. And Mercury in a Scorpio, again, the same thing. Mercury is helping us to understand what we are processing, because Mercury in a sign of Scorpio, it's very deep. It doesn't just, I mean, Mercury usually just gathers the information and just like, okay, whatever, for the sake of curiosity. But in a sign of Scorpio, it's very, very deep. It's very psychologically oriented. It's not just like, oh, let's have fun with this information, right? Like the more the better. But it actually makes us dive very deep, which is why a lot of people are really focused on deep healing at the moment, deep process of metamorphosis, like really diving deep into their psyche and having the, for some, of course, it could be being overcome with fear, because that's another way Mercury in Scorpio can manifest. It's like continuously thinking about things that makes us feel afraid and worried, because Scorpio goes deep and it makes us face everything that we are, that makes us feel disempowered. So Mercury making a trine to Neptune in Pisces, Neptune still retrograde, is again, it's passing on the information and this is the closing trine, the gibbous, the waning gibbous, which is saying that we need to take the gifts out of what we've learned and let go of the rest, because Neptune in Pisces, again, it's giving us the opportunity for spiritual upgrade, for maybe looking at things from the different perspective, like perspective of the what is the higher meaning in all of this, and the compassion and the forgiveness. Because again, if we make the same choices under the same old circumstances, we're gonna get the same outcomes, and then we shouldn't be surprised about that. So I feel with this Mercury still being the ruler of Venus, and Venus just making a trine to Pluto the day before, well, actually on the same day, if you are on this side of the Atlantic, it's happening on the same day, and then Mercury is making a trine to Neptune in Pisces, and this is to help us understand what is it that we're letting go of. Venus is trining Pluto. Pluto is ruled by Saturn in Pisces, now in direct, and then Mercury is making a trine to Neptune, and Mercury at the moment being in Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. So again, we can see just how the planets are jumping off each other and supporting us energetically in the same process, which is this process of understanding, discerning what no longer is actually working, what is not working, because over this past 15 years of period of time, we have almost a totality of understanding, because Pluto already been to Aquarius once, is just about to go there again in January. We have almost a totality of understanding what this means, like this system, this structure of reality, this way that perhaps kept us safe and secure and held meaning for many, many lifetimes. But this is not that lifetime, because Saturn is in Pisces, it's closing cycles, and with everything else that's going on, is becoming very clear of what is becoming outdated and meaningless. So on Wednesday, as I mentioned, Venus is actually moving into the sign of her rulership. Venus in Libra. Venus likes being in Libra. It's her domicile because she rules Libra traditionally and from modern astrology. But Venus in Libra, it's an air sign. Libra is air sign, so it's like very social. It's like, let's go out there and interact with people. So it's interesting how Venus is like one sign behind the Sun. So Sun is, like already almost halfway. Actually, it is halfway out. Yeah, it's almost, not quite yet. Halfway through Scorpio, and Venus is now finally like, okay, let me just go into Libra now, when all you guys already moved on to Scorpio. So poor Venus there alone, the one sign behind, just like closing a loop, which makes sense because Venus is the ruler of the South Node, of the resolution node to Pluto squaring the nodes. So Venus has to go over everything, because she's like, okay, what is this thing that we eliminating, right? Eliminating, because Pluto is squaring the nodes, pointing to the South Node in Libra, ruled by Venus, and of course Venus is gonna conjunct that node during her stint in Libra towards the end of the month, I believe. I don't have the exact date, so I don't want to say because I didn't write it down, but Venus is going to conjunct, let me see, Venus is going to move into Scorpio on December 4th. So yeah, it's going to be at the end of this month. Venus is going to conjunct the South Node that she is the ruler of and oppose the North Node. And this is again, Venus as the ruler of the South Node, the resolution node to the Pluto squaring the nodes, is helping us, like Venus now being in the closing phase with the South Node. That's why she's going over everything as the last one, once everything was activated, illuminated, and rethought by Mercury, because she's doing a lot of hard work. Because first Venus was the ruler of the North Node, helping us to understand ourselves, and now Venus is like, oh my God, now I have to help them to understand what it is they, that became outdated with regards to our relationships, the way we relate to one another. And Venus going into Libra, it's gonna be big focused on that, like in a way how we feel, because Venus, it's going to keep attracting people into our reality because of the Libra effect, that will make us dig deeper into these feelings that we might not want to feel, but we cannot hide away from anymore. And that's again being mirrored by this Mercury sextile in Pluto, literally either on the same night or the next day, but at night, because that's happening again at night between Wednesday and Thursday, depending where you are in the world. And Mercury is gonna sextile Pluto, and like I said, this is the last sextile before the conjunction. And Mercury is actually going to conjunct Pluto on February 5th, 2024. So we can see there are so many things happening in February. It's literally like unreal. Mercury is gonna conjunct Pluto. Venus is going to conjunct Pluto, Mars is going to conjunct Pluto. They're all going to conjunct Pluto in the sign of Aquarius in February, apart from Sun. Sun will be the first one to conjunct Pluto, and that will take place still on a 29 degrees 59 minutes of Capricorn on January 20th. But anyway, that's all just a side note. But going back to this Mercury and Pluto, and actually the last conjunction I have written here took place this year, well, we are still in 2023. I don't know why I'm already in 2024. So this sextile that is happening between Mercury and Pluto, that is coming towards the end of the cycle. So it's literally, this sextile is representing a Uranian flavor, which is again wanting to break free, having the understanding this now has become outdated, it's holding us back, we need to break free out of that. And the cycle has begun on the 10th of February this year. So we can see how these things are all coming to the end. And as I mentioned, the next conjunction will also take place in February. So so this last sextile is supporting us in the process of letting go, and Mercury in Scorpio is definitely bringing all these things, all these themes, all these thought processes, and the program, especially the program that now doesn't really work anymore, it's outdated and dysfunctional, it's bringing it to our consciousness. And right after this takes place, Mercury is moving into the sign of Sagittarius. And of course, Sagittarius is much more optimistic than Scorpio. Scorpio is like this death on the underworld, like, oh my God, we have to dig all this shadow out, right? And then Mercury moves into the sign of Sagittarius on Friday, where it will remain, as I mentioned, only for 3 weeks, only until December 1st. And this will be the way we will be hopefully thinking about things, might be from a higher perspective, because Sagittarius is the teacher. It's also the sign of expansion. Of course, at this point, Mercury will be ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is still in Taurus retrograde until the end of the year. And Jupiter is helping us to reevaluate this story that we tell ourselves that maybe doesn't even belong to you, maybe is not in alignment with who you are and what you want. And I'm still keeping going on about the same thing, because technically this is the theme, this is literally what's going on here, and it's our attachment to this old story and this outdated paradigm and program that is potentially holding us back. And that's why through the Scorpio season so many things intensified and have been brought up to our consciousness, because they have to be transmuted, because the process of Scorpio is actually transmutation. So it has to become something completely different. It's like this death and rebirth, is the phoenix rising. So it's not a process of like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, put a new paint on it, like just to change it. Like, no, like there is like literally where we are as a human collective, individually and collectively, there is no going back. There is no going back. There is literally like a complete transmutation, because this is what Pluto in Aquarius will require. Pluto in Aquarius is an accelerated energy of evolution. It's like literally going beyond everything that we ever experience in this incarnation anyway, because as I mentioned in my previous videos, there is nothing new under the sun. Everything we experience, it already happened and will happen again, unless we make a new choice under old circumstances. Because this is how universe operate. If we keep making the same choice, then we get the same outcome, right? So so when Mercury moves into the sign of Sagittarius, which means that it will be ruled by Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, it will potentially help us see things differently, because Sagittarius is about expansion and a higher point of view. It's about this all embracing Sagittarius represents our like desire for expansion and diversity in a sense, but hopefully we'll have the opportunity to think differently, to think from the higher perspective, which would allow us to see the other aspect of the story, right? Because Gemini is always about this multidimensionality, multiplicity, this different side of the coins, the polarity of this experience. So with Mercury moving into the sign of Sagittarius, hopefully that's what will take place. We'll have the opportunity, especially once Sun moves into the sign of Sagittarius, we'll have the opportunity to perhaps see things from a different point of view. But as I mentioned, as soon as Mercury moves into Sagittarius, it will make a square to Saturn, already direct, right? On a 0 degrees 33 minutes, which is the number 33, which is the master number, the master frequency, the Christ consciousness, actually, 33. And and this is the last quarter square. And I have here, just for the reference, because this is the last quarter square, which is the crisis in consciousness. Again, what do we need to let go of with regards to our psychology, what we attach to, that is, coming to the close, right? And the conjunction between Mercury and Saturn happened, the first one happened on 28th of February. Sorry, that was the last one. The next one will take place on the 28th of February. So the cycle where this is the Mercury last square to Saturn, the cycle will end on the 28th of February 2024, but the cycle actually had begun on the 2nd of March 2023 between Mercury and Saturn. So again, March 2023, that was, I believe, just before Saturn moved into the sign of Pisces, because it took place on a 29 degrees and 25 minutes. I don't remember exactly. I think Saturn moved into Pisces on 4th or 5th of March, but I could be wrong about that. But literally it was like few days later. So the cycle started with Saturn still in a sign of Aquarius on the last degrees, and that was again Saturn going through the sign of Aquarius since 2021 until beginning of this year, was the opportunity to see what has become outdated, where there was all these restrictions coming to the surface and to our consciousness, especially since 2020, when Saturn was in his rulership in the Capricorn and made conjunction with Pluto. A new cycle had begun. That helped us understand that the structure of the reality that we are experiencing at the moment is just not going any further, because of the Aquarian nature of Aquarian age, because of the Aquarian age and what Aquarius stands for, which is absolute freedom. And of course, it's got the shadow aspects to it, but in a higher vibration is the humanitarian sign, is the hope for the future, is the evolution. It's the evolution, because that is the transformation, to make something better that you found it. And Aquarius, in essence, is the sign that rules the people as a community, as a collective, which again is giving us the opportunity, I keep saying the same words, for seeing each other as equal. And this is also a Sagittarian quality, that to actually it's all embracing, it's non-judgmental. It's not like, oh, I'm better than you because of A, B, C, and D, but it's like everybody's got a story and everybody's got something to offer in this tapestry of life. So again, with Mercury, where was I? Mercury squaring Saturn, and this is the last quarter square, and Saturn is in Pisces, which is helping us to illuminate that story, because again, Mercury will be ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is retrograde in Taurus, helping us to reevaluate the stories we tell ourselves, the deep attachment to a certain story, which actually doesn't even maybe hold a meaning, because Jupiter is in a closing phase conjunction with Uranus, and the exact conjunction will take place in April next year. And now Jupiter being the ruler of Mercury, it's obviously influencing how this Mercury acts in Sagittarius, and Mercury making a square to Saturn. It's saying that, okay, this is the thing that we need to change, because square always creates a tension that requires a change. But because this is last quarter square is a change in the way we perceive, in a way we think, not necessarily in a way that or go out there and chop the wood or something. So yeah, so like I said, the cycle started in March this year, and the cycle will end at the end of February 2024. Again, February is coming out. Like February, there's so many things happening in February. It's crazy. February next year. And yeah, and then on Saturday we have Moon moving into sign of Scorpio, and yeah, the last thing is this Mars in opposition with Uranus. We'll end the week with Mars in opposition with Uranus, which is taking place on Saturday, I think, for all of us. Yeah, it will take place on Saturday for all of us, actually at 11:11 p.m. But this is the Eastern European time. That's the one I have in my ephemeris, because the ephemeris is for Pansko, Bulgaria. So yeah, so of course in a different time zone it will be different time. In Central Europe it will be 11 past 10, and for us here in Mexico it will be like 7 hours less. So anyway, I can't count that fast because I'm still jet lagged. But all that said, on Saturday the 11th oh my god, on a Saturday 11:11 on a Saturday on 11:11 portal. Okay, let's talk about this. On Saturday we are having 11:11 portal, which, as we know, is the master number frequency. 11:11 is the angelic frequency, is also the frequency of the universe saying that, okay, you are on the right path. There is like synchronicity, confirmation, serendipity, all that on this day. On 11:11, the portal, the magical portal, the one of the, I mean, they're all important, but 11:11 is special because it's 11:11, right? On 11:11, at 11:11 of Eastern European time zone, aka Bulgaria, we have in Mars in opposition with Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So again, I have some notes. Where is it? The last conjunctions, right? Okay, so the last, I don't have the last one, I have the next one. Okay, so this cycle will end on 16th of July 2024. So Mars, actually I remember I wrote it down somewhere. Where did I write it down? The last Mars, yes, here. Okay, I got it. So the last Mars-Uranus conjunction, which is halfway through on 11:11, yeah, happened on the 2nd of August 2022. And the interesting thing about that is that the day before, Mars conjuncted North Node, which was on the 1st of August 2022. Mars conjuncted North Node in the sign of Taurus on 18 degrees, 18 degrees and 33 minutes. Again, this master number 33 is coming up. So the cycle has begun in summer 2022 when the nodes were still in the sign of Taurus. It's actually happened on I think on the same day when I had my nodal return, interestingly enough, because my node is on 18 degrees and some change in the sign of Taurus. But anyway, so Mars conjuncted Uranus in Taurus. Again, what is this telling us? It's telling us about this, in a sense, changing the pattern with regards to the Taurus qualities, which is again the self-sufficiency, self-reliance, what matters, your relationship to yourself, your self-worth, all that. So all that, the cycle has begun in August 2022 between Mars and Uranus, and this cycle is halfway through on 11/11/2023, when, and actually that comes to a number 11, because 11:11 is 22, which is 2 and 2 is 4, even though we don't simplify the master numbers, and 4 and 7 is 11. So on the 11/11/11 at 11:11 Bulgarian time, we're going to have the halfway point, midway point between Mars and Uranus. And Uranus is retrograde in Taurus, which is again making us to go over things. And Mars being in a sign of Scorpio, which is its sign of rulership, which is where it was last time that they had a conjunction. No, actually, the conjunction would have taken place, obviously, in the sign of Taurus. But now is the opposition from the sign of Scorpio, which is ruled traditionally by Mars. So Mars is very powerful in the sign of Scorpio. It's got a lot of stamina. And now this cycle is becoming illuminated to us, again, in a very deep way. So because it is an opposition, and this opposition will be still active during the new moon in Scorpio, and Uranus will be opposing the new moon in Scorpio, there is something that is becoming clear to us, again, that is showing the outdated pattern, the pattern that is no longer supporting us, because with the North Node in a sign of Taurus, that took, that was the time when this conjunction happened between Uranus and Mars, and then Mars conjuncted the North Node, which means that Uranus also was conjuncting the North Node. The North Node is Taurus. It's about, we need to start trusting ourselves and relying on ourselves, which is obviously not so in alignment with the way we were being conditioned, the way we were being told, because we were always being told to go and ask someone else, speak to the experts, right? But actually with the North Node in Taurus, and that is obviously not there anymore. Now the North Node is in Aries, which is ruled by Mars, which is saying about this new beginning, this new direction. So during the last conjunction between Uranus and Mars were conjuncting the North Node in Taurus, which is again saying, so there is a new cycle starting between Mars and the North Node, and Uranus and the North Node, which again was saying to us that we are moving into this new pattern that is saying that, well, you need to trust yourself, you need to rely on yourself, because if we externalize our power, then you will never feel in control of your life. You will actually never feel truly free and sovereign if you go to someone else to tell you how to live your life, right? So now with this opposition that will be still active during this upcoming new moon in Scorpio, which will start a new cycle again, because everything is cycles in astrology, there might be some unexpected realization, especially if people, and I know a lot of people are going through a deep shadow work at the moment, and also a deep grief, which is like also through, this is all Scorpionic themes. So whether you do a psychological sessions, or you do shamanic sessions, or whatever Scorpionic themes, or there is a deep grief and sense of loss and betrayal that is being impacted by the external environment, all these are deeply transformational experiences that can happen very quickly, suddenly and unexpectedly, and crack us open in a sense. This Taurus, the rigid attachment to something, this comfort zone, these old definitions, it can crack us open, and then suddenly things can come streaming from our subconscious to our conscious mind, and then the world doesn't look the same anymore. Everything has shifted on its axis. So obviously this is a point of illumination with the opposition between Mars and Uranus, and like I said, because the Uranus is going to be opposing the new moon, whatever will come out to our consciousness is obviously supporting us in this process going forward, because Uranus will be the rule of Pluto for 20 years. So yeah, it's just very fascinating, everything that's been taking place at the moment. And then I have here, because obviously the lunation will be in opposition with Uranus, and that means that the Sun and Uranus conjunction will be taking place on the same day, which is next week on Monday, on the 13th. And I just have here the last conjunction between Sun and Uranus took place in May 2022, and the next one will be in May 2020. The last conjunction between Sun and Uranus 2023, and of course 2024 again, because that's when Sun is in the sign of Taurus at the later degrees of it. So yes, there's a lot of things happening. Obviously, a lot of themes, obviously still very Scorpionic themes, because we are in a Scorpio season, so it's bringing a lot of things to the surface. And I mean, again, I already made my personal share yesterday, but just to briefly say, like, how many things have been coming up for me, especially with regards to what matters to me and where my needs are not being met, and how that makes me feel and act if that is the case. So imagine that everything that is taking place in our microcosm and macrocosm on the on the collective scale as well, on a collective theater stage, it's because someone's needs didn't get met for a prolonged period of time, until they become distorted and monstrous. And then when enough people get together with the same unmet need, then they start acting out, and But it can be the same way, the opposite. If people learn to meet their needs because they have the love and acceptance and compassion toward themselves, and like, okay, well, this is what is important to me. It doesn't matter that the society say that, well, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, obviously, like everything within the limit, because not everything is acceptable. Going around killing people is not exactly acceptable, right? But I can't imagine somebody, like, okay, well, then we can go into deep psychology here. Why would people have the need and desire for such action? But anyway, let's move away from that theme. But let's just say, healthy human being, balanced human being, if the person gets their need met, so they acknowledge, okay, it's important for me to, for example, I don't know, go for a walk every day, or go to gym every day, whatever it is that is important to you, and that person gives themselves what they need, then of course they will have much more to give to their environment, because they won't be giving from empty cup, and they will be much more prone to actually go and support someone else. And if we treat ourselves well with respect and love and compassion, then we are much easier to extend that to someone else. So if enough people who are doing that, the opposite behavior, get together, then we also create a force, that will be impacting the collective by the ripple effect, just the same way as the polarity at the moment is impacting the collective by all these people not having their needs met and then acting out in a destructive way. So so with all these scorpionic topics that are coming up to the surface, this is not just roses and butterflies, even though the process of metamorphosis is represented by the butterfly, but we again can see that it is not the same animal that went into the cocoon, right? The butterfly and the caterpillar are completely two different things, right? So this is pretty much what we are all going through at the moment, collectively and individually. And I mean, I don't know anyone who is not having anything going on in their life, but then again, it could be just the frequency that I'm emanating into the space. But even with the aspects, like I said, that we are facing this week, with the positive aspects as well, because we have the Venus trying to Pluto, which is very supportive, Mercury trying to Neptune, which is very supportive, and Pluto last sextile to Pluto, Mercury last sextile to Pluto, which again is supporting, and then these two changing the sign. Of course, Mercury, from the traditional astrology perspective, is not happy in Sagittarius because it's a detriment, right? Mercury rules Gemini. But when we look at it from the deeper perspective, like, yes, Mercury might not like Sagittarius because it's deep, because it's not about just like, oh yeah, let's gather information and spit it out there into the space, just like when you put something, keywords, into ChatGPT, and it produces this body of text, tons and tons of it, right? But then you have to discern what out of that is going to be actually useful to you. And this is again a conversation which I had with myself and I'm sure with my phone too, that yes, you can gather as much information as you want if information is widely available at the moment anyway, but then you have to discern what out of that is actually helpful and useful, because we could literally be tapped into information sources all day every day for the rest of your life, until there is obviously something happening externally preventing that, like whatever, blackout or power cuts, but what out of that is actually relevant and what is supporting us on our path, because we all came here to be a unique expression of the source, and everybody needs something different. Everybody is actually here to have their own unique experience. So with Mercury moving into Sagittarius this week, and also Venus moving into the sign of Libra, we might be interacting with people that we will be drawn to people that will be bringing all these questions into our consciousness, that through this interaction we might be actually prompt to ask ourselves a deeper question. So that's what Mercury in Sagittarius is like, why do I have to do this, right? Mercury just been through the sign of Scorpio, so it's been like to the hell and back, and it's like, okay, well, Sagittarius is lighter energy anyway, so let's do this. So so there is a lot happening, and as I keep saying all the time, this is all supporting us, even if it doesn't look like that, it doesn't feel like that, but it's supporting us in going forward in whatever it is yet to come that is currently still unknown. because it's being created as we go through life. But with all these aspects, positive aspects to all these outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, that are taking place at the moment, and all these oppositions that are giving us the point of illumination, and in a sense is the point of choice. To me, is the point of choice, because you have the opportunity to decide that now that you know what you perhaps didn't know before, what you're gonna do with it. Are you gonna take the gifts of that and let the rest go, or like if the square comes and we are not willing to do that, then like external environment might create situations and circumstances that will do it for us. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much what I'm tapping into here, and it's all a school of life. Everything that's happening in the micro and macrocosm is just to give you a deeper understanding of yourself and your own hero's or fool's journey, whatever you want to call it. And all this astrological weather that's happening is just to generate the energy to support us on this process, in this process. But the way that we use that particular energy is decided by your free will, and obviously your frequency and vibration. So yeah, so this is what I've got, and like I said, I will make the next astrological forecast, which will include the new moon in Scorpio earlier. And yeah, I wish everybody a great week, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much love, guys. Bye for now.